To close executive session and to reopen the public meeting. Is there a motion? Trustee Golio, second Trustee Cassell. Discussion, all in favor? Meeting will come to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and a prayer by Trustee Cassell. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As you know, last week we had an election, so tonight's prayer, I would like to give appreciation and gratitude to all the candidates who ran and to everyone who offers to serve our community. I also want to thank those officials who will be leaving office, Mayor Kinnett, Deputy Mayor Golio, Village Justice Grant, for their dedication to our village. Lastly, for those recently elected, I would like to offer the following quote from President John F. Kennedy. Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix blame for the past, but let us accept our own responsibility for the future. Amen.
And thank you, Donna. Those are really good, true words. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Village Hall. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for Tuesday, November 14th. We've got a couple of presentations that we're going to... Where are the dogs? I thought the dogs were going to be here tonight.
Who let the dogs out?
Dogs. But we do have a couple of presentations to start, so we're going to ask some of you to kind of sit a little bit patiently because we've had this agenda set out for a little while. But we have a special presentation that we'll start off with tonight. Then the mayor's going to give a not too long presentation on some fiscal items. And then we're going to hear a presentation on a really exciting new project, the Cedar Street Sidewalk Plan, which we'll all learn a little bit more about. And then we do have a public hearing, which are going to reopen and continue on the consideration of changing a street name, Livingstone Street. And then we'll get to courtesy of the floor after that. Just echoing, I think, what Donna said, I just want to start tonight and also congratulate the winners in the last election. You know, it's very exciting and change is really good. And Vinny, I want to congratulate you for your win. It's great to know that you're going to be back up here, an experienced trustee. We've worked really well, and I'm really, really happy for the board that you're going to be up here and lending your experience along with Donna. That's really, really important. I want to thank Bob McLaughlin, who's here tonight. Congratulations, Bob. You're going to be a great, great mayor. You're going to love it, and you know you have my word that I'm going to work with you very closely for the transition. And I do also want to say that what Donna said today is very, very important about, and I'm going to give these words also. Let me congratulate also Christy Nell, who's here tonight, will be a new trustee, and Mara D'Arcy, who's not here tonight. Congratulations, and also David Kingsburg will be the new village judge. But yeah, there's sort of a top 10 list that I'm going to give the next time we meet to the incoming board and everything. But one of the things that you never do, you never ever do, as Donna said, is blame the previous administration for any problems that you were going to inherit. I guarantee you're going to inherit a lot of problems. But anyway, congratulations to all of you, and it's very exciting and good done. You guys ran a positive campaign, and I think people really like that, and the numbers showed that. So well done. Good job. Okay, so I'm going to give make a presentation tonight, which I'll do down here, and I'm kind of going to stay down there as well for the next one. So just bear with me, and we'll get going. Yeah, I'm going to come down. I'm getting used to being down here. I'm trying to be down here a lot the last couple of weeks as opposed to being up there. But you know, we've got a few legacy tours that have been going on here for the last couple of weeks and months, and we wanted to recognize Gary Gardner tonight. Gary retired a couple of weeks ago as general foreman of the Department of Public Works, and a little bit to say about Gary here, but we didn't want to do it back then because he had a little bit of competition from somebody else who was retiring at that time. So we wanted to spread it out a little bit and give Gary his due. But you know, when I first became mayor in 2009, one of the I didn't know anything about the DPW operations, very little, and you know, and that year, that first year, Gary, you man, 2009, it was like the worst winter ever in Dobbs Ferry. And I'll never forget going out with Jim Dunn and Gary in the middle of the night, driving around in the middle of, it wasn't a snowstorm, it was this electrical storm that was precursor to what was going to happen that winter. It was the most, literally trees were falling on the trucks. Felt like I was in a war zone. And it's the kind of stuff that these guys deal with that you don't see. And it's really an amazing operation, and Gary did an incredible job running it for so many years. You just can never appreciate how hard the work is and how much goes into cleaning the streets and all the things that can go wrong. And so much can go wrong in a village as old as Dobbs Ferry, where the infrastructure is so. There's always something going wrong. There's always a crisis. There's always a disaster. And Gary did an incredible job. And you know, we just can't thank you enough. And one of the great things too, and Steve Trez is here in the back, and we've made the transition, but we know that things are going to continue to work really well because Gary worked so hard in training and getting Steve set for the new role, and you know, everything is going to work really great going forward. So we wanted to honor Gary tonight for his years of service, and we do have a mayor's proclamation to give you, Gary. If you could come up here, and I'll present this to you. The Village of Dobbs Ferry proclamation, whereas Gary Gardner was born and raised in the Village of Dobbs Ferry, and whereas the Village of Dobbs Ferry hired Gary as a laborer on June 10, 1985, and whereas during his career with the Dobbs Ferry Department of Public Works, Gary was promoted to Parks Foreman on February 13, 1989, and July 13, 1992, he was promoted to General Foreman. And whereas Gary has been honored to serve on the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Department since February of 1981, and was Second Assistant Chief from April of 1995 to April of 1997, and First Chief from April of 1997 to April of 1999, and Fire Chief from April of 99 to April of 2001. And whereas throughout his career, Gary worked with 3 police chiefs, 7 mayors, 6 village administrators, and more trustees than he can accurately count. And whereas he developed in his career, Gary became a quasi-expert on everything, from sewer lines below the ground to high-tension power lines above the ground, and almost everything in between, including grass and trees and weeds, roadways, drains, and deer, geese, and goats. Gary was truly the go-to guy. And whereas after 32 years of devoted service to the Village of Dobbs Ferry, Gary will culminate his magnificent career and retire from his position as General Foreman. And whereas as a community we are saddened that Gary has retired, yet we are so lucky and grateful that Gary came to Dobbs Ferry, giving so much of himself. And whereas we wish him and his family all the best of luck in the future, therefore be it resolved that I officially commend and thank Gary for his service to our village, for making Dobbs Ferry a better place, and through the authority of my office do hereby proclaim Wednesday, November 15, 2017, Gary Gardner Day in the Village of Dobbs Ferry. And with this proclamation established throughout the village, the people of goodwill to see and know. Congratulations, Gary. Really good to see you back here tonight. To say a few words here.
Just want to say thank you to the mayor and boards that gave the opportunity to serve in that capacity. And of course, it wouldn't be possible without a good crew behind me, and they were always there supporting me and worked well with me, and we got the job done. And again, I'd like to thank my family also for putting up with all those years of service. And thanks again, guys.
Well done.
Mayor, may I add one thing? Gary's actually still working for us. We had a sewer backup the other day, and they couldn't find it. Our guys couldn't find it. Steve calls up Gary. Gary comes out, talks him through it. In 15 minutes, he knows where it is, the story's over, and he's on call.
One of the things I told Steve is that I always be there to help. You know, you're gonna get that once in a while when you first start off, but eventually you're gonna get that.
No, everything's going really great.
It took a
We trained
long
everybody.
time to learn that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to stay down here, and I'm going to give a presentation for the benefit of the board and for the benefit of the residents. And, well, it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and a lot of people have encouraged me to do it. You know, we've accomplished a great deal over the last 8 years, and one of the things that we did was we set into motion you know, a fiscal management style which, you know, was very well communicated at the outset. And, you know, not everything that we did everybody was in agreement with. But I wanted to go through, as just part of sort of showing one of the things that we've done is, you know, obviously there's been a lot of redevelopment in the village. And it's not anything that we all necessarily agree with. But I wanted to explain because people have asked me to, people that have been in favor of what's been going on generally, and people, some that have not been in favor of what's going on. It's really, can you demonstrate, can you show kind of what all this means, what it all adds up to? And I wanted to do that, but I wanted to do that in a broader picture, to talk more about fiscal responsibility and about what the picture looked like in 2009 when I became mayor. Vic and I came in and we had some great trustees that have joined us along the way. And what we were dealing with and what we decided is the best fiscal plan going forward or strategy. Part of that strategy did include redevelopment. Part of that strategy also looked for ways, or forced us to look for ways, or how could we increase other sources of revenue to the village. And also it forced us to look at, you know, the fees, the general things that you would generally look at as well. So I want to go through this and just give you my little introduction here, but I want to give a little bit of background on how things looked in 2009 and sort of the why and the how that we sort of came to in terms of executing the strategy. Give a little bit of executive summary. So we looked at basically the main redevelopment projects that this board, the Board of Trustees, is responsible for site plan approval. And many of you know in the room here that we're not responsible for every project's approval. It's only projects that are in the downtown business district, in the Chauncey Square area, which is Rivertown Square area, the old Axel Novell property, and I'm looking back just to make sure I'm getting all this right from the village attorney, the educational districts. So it'll be just those projects that we looked at in those districts. And give you, basically it'll give you a table and show you each of the projects. Many of you are familiar with these projects, what they brought to the table, we'll have some objectivity about it, and give you a 10-year summary. Basically, we're going to project out 10 years. And with this, I had the help from the village's treasury department. Jeff helped the village budget officer, which is Charlene Delicato. Also the building department, which is very knowledgeable of what the costs were and the returns on these projects. And we also had the ad hoc citizens budget committee take a look at it as well. So it's a very, very objective report. Again, not everyone's going to agree with everything that's in it, but it's very objective. So we'll look at those 10-year returns and really see what those numbers are and what are some of the sources of new revenues. I also want to talk just a little bit about the Dobbs Ferry Local Development Corporation, which is a vehicle that we incorporated in 2010 for the express purpose of generating revenues directly from the tax-exempt institutions and what that has achieved and where those monies have been reinvested back into the community, and then just sort of an ongoing and give you some conclusions along the way. So, starting in 2009, we established as a priority pursuit of a financial strategy aimed at increasing the village's revenue. When we took office in 2009, at that time, the world, the country, the state, every single municipality anywhere in this country was in crisis mode. We were facing the worst financial crisis in the history of the country since the Depression. There was no money, and it was a very, very bleak picture. The village's tax base over the years leading up to the crash in 2009, had already been flat to declining. So we already had a declining revenue picture in addition to now a major financial crisis. And so we had decided that one of the things we had to look at was higher revenues as an important component to help balance the budgets and keep the village's tax rates in check. There hadn't been any development projects that had been approved up to that time for decades, literally decades. And we'll show some pictures of what the village used to look like back in the 1990s and the early 2000s. There wasn't anything improved. In fact, the village was busier tearing buildings down than it was in terms of building new structures. We needed to also know, and many of you lived in Gosford for a long time, to address critical long-term needs and requirements, including much-needed upgrades to infrastructure, parking, public safety, and recreational assets. Because there had been such inactivity in the village for so many years, a lot of the assets of the village were really going to waste. They weren't being upgraded, they weren't being addressed at all, and it was a real problem. We wanted to improve the quality of life for all residents, and so we felt we needed a new approach. We needed to take a new approach. There were not any revenues coming in. There were certainly opportunities. There were a lot of empty lots. There were tons of empty lots all over the place. They were in real disrepair. So that was the real important component of that strategy. Obviously with that too is, how are you going to go about that? So how we went about that was saying and communicating that we were at the very least going to have an openness to redevelopment projects to increase the property tax base and revenues, which obviously includes permits and fees and recreation contributions to come out. We weren't saying we were going to prove everything, but we were going to take an open mind and let's hear what people have to say and let's see what the possibilities were. That was a big change right there in of itself. We created the Gosford Local Development Corporation as a means to generate additional direct revenues for the larger tax-exempt institutions in the village, and I'll talk more about that so that you can better understand about how that works, and the ongoing reassessment of fees and permits to assure competitive levels. Of course, the revenue side is not the only side to look at. We also, when coming into 2009, I can tell you that the village didn't even have a budget or planning process. It was chaotic. It was just, there was no plan whatsoever. And I remember, back then, you and a few guys, folks around the village had formed, even at that stage, a really ad hoc form yourself budget committee that was coming, or budget group that was coming to the meetings, trying to help the board at that time any way they can, because it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. Fireworks were being canceled at the last minute. There was no plan, there was no strategy. It was a real problem. So we had to get a hold of that, and we communicated. And you remember what our literature looked like back then that we were handing out was one of the things we needed to take a real serious approach to the budgeting process as well. That was really important. This was going to be a 24/7, 365, working with staff, working with departments. So it wasn't just about revenues. We were taking a very close look at budgeting and planning and taking a more serious approach to that. So that was also part of the strategy. So I'm just going to go through some of this, but when we look at these 8 projects, which I'll go through, and you're going to know all the names of it, and the monies that we generated from the LDC, just an executive summary to start off with, we're projecting over the next 10 years, starting with this year, approximately $8.7 million of new revenue that will be coming into the village in the form of increased tax base, permit fees, one-time recreation fees, and LDC contributions that are coming from the tax exempts, over $8.7 million. That's a huge number. And that's additional revenues that the village would otherwise not have. Just looking at property taxes alone, starting this year and over the next 10 years, you're going to see approximately $430,000 to $515,000 a year increases in property tax revenue. That's huge. Conservatively, if you look at what these projects, we'll go through some of them, the infrastructure upgrades that have been directly related to these projects, including new roadway improvements, new sidewalks, new on-site parking resources, public safety features, improved utilities, enhancements to the environment. There's been a lot of that. $2 million is probably a conservative number. It's probably closer to $10 million. But we'll call it $2 million. Those are indirect intangibles, but of huge values to improving the village. Segregated recreation account, that's basically when we look at a redevelopment project that has a residential component that the Board of Trustees has approval over. In the village code, the Board of Trustees has the right, as part of that approval, as a condition of that approval, to require the developer, the applicant, to make a contribution to the recreation, segregated recreation account or fund. There's a formula in the code, specifically per unit. The board doesn't have to necessarily follow exactly along with that, but uses discretion to agree on a number that makes sense. So again, looking at those 10 projects, and we'll go through them. Almost $1.2 million has been generated for the recreation account, and that's monies that will be used to improve specifically recreation assets, fields, the Embassy Club, can also be used to create and enhance the open spaces that we have in the village as well. In addition to that, over $300,000, which I'll go through, has been generated by the LDC. So, you know, you're talking roughly, you know, some very, very big numbers here in the executive summary. Since 2009, there have been 8 significant redevelopment projects approved in the zoning districts that require site plan approval of the Board of Trustees. You all know which ones they are. Walgreens, Stop and Shop, 17 Cedar Street, 78 Main Street, 66 Main Street, Rivertown Square is, of course, the big monster, 2 Ashford Avenue, and 75 Main Street. So the following page, we're going to go through those really quick. And I do want to add here that, you know, we did not agree as a board on all these projects. And I want to talk a little bit about that. But these are the main projects that make up in that executive summary. You'll see more in the table coming up that have generated the revenues in terms of the redevelopment income. Walgreens. You know, most of you in this room remember the building that was there before Walgreens and the businesses that were there. I'm going to tell you something. If you ever went into the basement of that building that was there before, you would never go back into that building again for any of the businesses. I loved Off-Broadway as much as everybody. It was a great, great restaurant. I can tell you back then, though, when this thing came around and was being proposed, those owners were ready to go. They wanted their deal. And I actually asked them at dinner there one night, did you want me to go to bat and stop this project? They go, no, we're ready to go. The other 2 businesses that were there were failing. One was bankrupt, and one was never paying its rent on time. So, you know, the owner had a real problem with the tenants that were there. And you know, some of you have been around and think you've been around a long time. Remember that was before, then it was an auto parts store, which wasn't a very attractive thing. But so Walgreens was controversial. It was actually first presented to the Board of Trustees as a 1-story building, right? And then the HRB went back and looked at it, and looking at the division plan and the zoning code for that period actually encourages a streetscape look that is a minimum of 2 stories, so it came back to us as 2 stories. But, you know, I think now people think that it's a really beautifully designed building. The AHRB did an incredible job. It had a significant impact in new taxes to the village, $17,900 before, almost $29,000 in taxes per year afterwards. And you know, it's been a real enhancement to the gateway. It's an attractive looking building. It's a more beautiful building. It's improved parking. The parking lot there before, I'm sure many of you remember, was all hilly and it just didn't make any sense at all. We have enhanced parking out of it. It's a convenience for residents. It's certainly a lot of people shopping there as opposed to going over to Ardsley. It's expanded the senior healthcare programs. And it's a long-term tenant. Walgreens is an American success story, an American company. You know, we're going to be there for the next 20 years. So a real upgrade. Stop and Shop. Oh, what a history this one had. Remember Shock and Awe? Some of you don't. But this property was, there was a proposal for Stop and Shop back in the 90s that was massive. 2-story parking. It was a really big deal. And a lot of controversy with that one. But this thing went back and forth for so many years, and I'll show you the table that we get to at the end, what happens when you just bounce things back and forth. But this has been a great project, and it certainly has enhanced the Gateway tremendously. We're a much better looking store, with a much better looking parking lot. It was a huge increase of parking spaces. I don't know, an additional, I think, 70 parking spaces that were created in the back lots there for, not a municipal parking lot, but still parking that residents can use if they want to go downtown. Major enhancement to the gateway for sure from what was there before, more beautiful buildings, significant increases in parking and convenience for residents. But there is a tax surgery story to this one because it went on so long that will, is included in the numbers and kind of went the other way, which is interesting. 17 Cedar Street. This one, if you guys maybe remember that building there, probably arguably, this was approved and completed in 2014. Small little project on Cedar Street. Probably converting what was arguably the ugliest building in Dobbs Ferry to what is now, and no offense to whoever the original builder was, but to a really beautiful looking building now with nice apartments and storefronts down below, bringing additional taxes to the village, and again promoting sort of the walkability. A lot of these projects that we've reviewed and approved, a lot of them of course are downtown most recently, and that's clearly written into our vision plan. And something that this community has been talking about and constantly tries to achieve, and I think it's probably we don't disagree with, is the walkability of our community is really important. The fact that we can attract people to come up here to live in apartments downtown. They don't need cars. They can walk everywhere they need to. They've got the aqueduct. They've got the waterfront park, and they've got the train station right into Manhattan, all right here at your fingertips. This project was completed real quickly too. I think the designer did a really great job. And, everybody looks at that building now compared to what was there before, I think feels pretty good about it. 78 Main Street, this has been a controversial one. This is the Giuliani building that really was one of the more controversial ones. This was approved in 2015, it still is in process. But it is a redevelopment of a very old building that was outdated and is going to be replaced by a new and attractive downtown mixed-use property. New additional property taxes over the projected 10-year period, almost $230,000, and a large contribution to the recreation fund, because this is a residential building, it's got enough units in there, it's going to be generating $80,000 to the recreation fund. Other benefits, some disagreement on this certainly, major aesthetic enhancement to the Main Street downtown area. I drive by that building now, and as it's coming together with the brick on one side and the siding, it's starting to look pretty good, at least compared to what was there before, which was really pretty awful. Major upgrade to the facility itself and the safety of the people that live in there, and that's another thing, that these buildings are being really brought up to code with the latest state-of-the-art safety features. It's really, really important. And again, this project encourages a walkable community with on-site parking for downtown parking. 66 Main Street, this, if you've lived in Dobbs Ferry for a while, this was an empty, unattractive lot forever. And this one is getting close to completion now, and this, I think again, it's turning out to be a really attractive building. There was a little bit of controversy with this project, particularly the height of this building, but it's replacing an empty lot. It's going to be generating approximately $350,000 in new taxes, property taxes, over the next 10 years, and making also a very large contribution to the recreation fund of $110,000. An aesthetic improvement, enhancement to the downtown, encourage walkability, the walkable community, and also has on-site parking for the residents. Rivertown Square, I didn't talk too much about that. We know all what's going on about that. This was been a really controversial, it was approved in 2013-14, a very, very long process, approval process. By the way, I would just say that every one of these projects that we're going through here had extensive review, extensive public hearings. We took input from everybody. The statutory boards, the AHRB, the planning board, in some cases the zoning board of appeals got involved in some of these projects, all weighed in. And in some of the cases, they were pretty lengthy processes. And that's really, really important. But this is obviously a big one. It was the most controversial one. But over the projected period, just property taxes alone is going to be an increase of $4 million to the village of Dobbs Ferry. One-time permit fees of over $1.5 million. Those are the permit fees of not just the initial construction, but when they then find their new tenants to come into the buildings, and those tenants want to do upgrades, it generates additional income for the building department, which has really been huge the last couple of years. A huge contribution to the recreation fund of $760,000. That's because of the Dan Ford apartment building there, the residential component. and projected hotel tax. Now, when we started first to look at this project, which did include a hotel, we didn't have a hotel tax that we were able to charge. That was something that we've been working on for many years. Finally, it was approved by the New York State Legislature and Governor Cuomo. And so now the village of Dobbs Ferry, along with other Westchester communities, we're able to initiate and establish a special hotel tax that we couldn't before. And it's going to be applicable to this new Hilton Hotel that's going to be there, that conservatively, we think, with the work that was done by the treasurer, and that will generate over $100,000 a year, or roughly $1.1 million in new revenues for the village from that hotel tax. There's been a lot of major upgrades from this project on Ogden Avenue, the roadway, the crosswalks, the sidewalks that have been built along Ogden Avenue. Sidewalks now the entire length of Beacon Hill because of this project. The crossing signal at Springhurst School, real enhancement to the kids and public safety. New utilities along Ogden Avenue, so if you want to switch into the gas now, you can do that. New residential options for residents, a place where you might want to consider renting. That's a hard thing to do anywhere in Westchester County. Economic development, obviously, there's a lot of new restaurants, the theater and the hotel, jobs. And the environment has been greatly improved down there compared to what it was before. To Ashford Avenue. What can I say about this one? Talk about something that has a history. I want to read some excerpts to you, but going back. But it looks like Bruno's getting close to finishing this thing up, I hope. You know, I'm going to show you some pictures coming up here next of what that place looked like back in the 90s. But this, we think is close to completion. This is a redevelopment of an attractive empty prior gasoline station. You guys all remember the power test station that was there before? And hopefully soon to be completed in new attractive downtown mixed-use property. This is going to be new additional property taxes of about $145,000 over the projected period, and also making a major contribution to the recreation fund of $80,000. An enhancement to the gateway, certainly from what was there before. You know, what you hate when you show these pictures, because there's always these wires in every picture, so nothing's really going to look good. But, which, by the way, when you get back to the Stop and Shop proposal, one of the things that they had, Patty might remember this, but one of their ideas, and I think even the first to Ashford proposal, was to bury the wires. And we had that opportunity, but there was just too much stuff going on, and just, you know, people were too much against stuff at the time. And but those opportunities have come and gone, unfortunately. And that's kind of what I think we try to embrace, what you want to embrace when you get these windows and opportunities. You want to try to get this stuff done. And the last one is 75 Main Street. This one took forever. This one went back and forth a lot. It was finally approved in 2017. All of you know the history of this. This is an historical misuse redevelopment of a signature building on Main Street in the downtown area. The building, for as long as any of us have been around here, has been empty and in disrepair for decades. It's going to generate new additional property tax of about $200,000 over the projected period, and a huge contribution to the recreation fund of $180,000. This is going to be a major historical and aesthetic enhancement to the Main Street downtown area. It's going to be a beautiful, attractive building. It's going to encourage walkable community, and it has a lot of on-site parking. And you know, this is the one that was originally proposed. I think it's a really good example of the benefit of the Board of Trustees having final site plan approval for some of these districts, particularly downtown. The original plan that was approved by the planning board, as many of you know, this building was huge, right? It was gigantic. And we brought it back and scaled it down and really listened to the community on this one. And I think got to a really good place. I know Bruce isn't completely happy with where this went, but you stayed involved, and certainly, you know, changes were agreed that you got some stuff out of it. And that's the thing, is everybody looks to get a little bit of something out of it. But I think where we end up as a community overall is in a really, really good place. So those are those projects, and here's basically the table. I know it's hard to read from where you are, but there's a handout available. If anyone who wants to take it, we'll make this available on the website, and this will be in the newsletter. But I just want to point this out, that the total forecasted additional revenues from those projects is, again, in excess of $8.5 million discounted over the next 10 years. That includes the increase in property taxes year on year. That includes the one-time permit and tenant fees, which is close to $2 million on its own. That includes the projected hotel tax, and that includes the recreation fees of almost $1.2 million. We did also get some pilot payments, payments in lieu of parking on some of these projects. Not a whole lot, but we got $30,000, which, you know, you can create some new parking resources with that if you're clever and you think about it, which Charlene and the staff here knows how to do. And so there's some pretty big numbers here. So I wanted to show that. These are real numbers. We're not making these up. You can argue them a little bit, but Jeff Treasure spent a lot of time. This is what he does. And Charlene and the budget committee is totally objective in this. And this is a very, very fair representation. This is going to help the village tremendously. And we'll talk about that a little bit here. That's the projected growth on property taxes. It's a really nice trend, and also the projected new sources of revenue. Just some little pictures I wanted to throw in there. Everybody remember what the gateway looked like back then? Do you remember that? Yesterday's dark picture? I gotta point something out here. This is so ironic. Some of you will love this. Yeah, so that's the power test station, right? It's, for any of you remember, how long was it like that? I mean, 30 years, 20 years? I don't know. This was an empty gas station building that had a chain link fence around it for forever. Patty had proposed putting, which I thought was a really neat project, a bed and breakfast in there, which unfortunately didn't get approved. I was on the board that was one of the ones that said yes, but it didn't go anywhere. This is what defeated it, basically. I mean, it's just, this was, I gotta read something from 1990 here. You think I'm reading something today. This is from the New York Times. Actually, this is written in 2000. Talked about a guy named Carl Gay, who bought the Performance Motors building in 1992. And this talks about the gateway, and people refer to it, they had all kinds of really bad names for it, which I won't mention all of them. But this gateway area, a bottleneck at the intersection of Ashford and Broadway, Dobbs Ferry's through traffic passes, 18,000 cars a day go through there, probably more now. Besides the traffic problem, the area is an aesthetic wasteland that village officials have been trying to rehabilitate for 6 years. Now, what the village officials were doing back then was that because there was just such a say-no attitude to everything, that the village decided to create an urban renewal site. And instead of encouraging people to build things, they were knocking buildings down. And some of you remember the Scott Chevrolet building that used to be in this little area of town here. I mean, you talk about an ugly building that was falling apart. It was like you would have thought you were driving through the middle of Detroit. At its worst moments, that's what this whole area looks like. So it talks about when word spread, villages were considering condemning property to spruce up the angry homeowners, business people, and their lawyers. And the lawyers denounced the plan. Basically, anything that was being proposed here. Mr. Ginsburg had proposed something here, I think a 5-story thing that got defeated pretty quickly, or got more than that. But this one I love. This is the one I love. But that. So the guy who buys this power test or this property, he's approached by the board of trustees, and the mayor calls him up and tells him to meet him, because he wants to talk to him. He said, "Look, it's going to be at least 10 years. You're never going to get this passed." I mean, that was basically what they were dealing with there, and I just, that's the picture. And I think what's so ironic is that what was painted over that door was SOS. That's just really ironic, isn't it? These are really dark days. The SOS days are really dark days. And this was a cry for help. So the Gateway was screaming for help a long time ago. And it took us a long time, but here's where we are now. Stop and Shop, parking lots are never beautiful things, but, it's a nice looking building, it's attractive. The Walgreens brick building is a beautifully designed building that really complements the professional building across the street. And I have all kinds of pictures, and I took these years ago, actually, but it's just it's so much more beautiful, so much more attractive. And when Bruno gets his building done at 2 Ashford Avenue, it's going to be more of a place that we can be proud of, more proud of when you drive through. The mobile station looks pretty good, doesn't it? Well, that's what happens, you know, things feed on things. So when things start getting better, everybody says, you know, I got to up my game a little bit too. And the mobile station looks pretty darn good as gas stations go. And Shell's not doing such a bad job either. They're all really improved. So, you know, I think that very dark picture and the strategy that we took is to replace this by a brighter and more beautiful downtown gateway and a better financial future. Dobbs Ferry Local Development Corporation, I've stayed up here a little bit too long. This basically we created in 2011, and this was for the express purpose to generate additional revenues directly from the larger taxes and institutions in Dobbs Ferry. It's a legally incorporated entity in the state of New York. Basically, LDCs exist under New York State tax law for the express purpose of helping to provide tax-exempt funding for institutions that provide services for the public and which would not be able to attract necessary or affordable funding for the work that they do to benefit society. That's it in a nutshell. So, as Dobbs Ferry, where we have these institutions like Children's Village and like St. Christopher's that do incredible work for underprivileged kids, nobody would invest in those from a return standpoint. So the village or the municipality under New York State law can form a local development corps, which would basically be the conduit for tax-exempt bonds to flow, and that LDC gets a risk. So that community is doing a good thing to help encourage things that are being done to generate society as a bit, even though that community is accepting burdens with those institutions. Because don't forget, as you all know, 40% of Dobbs Ferry's land is tax exempt. So this was part of our strategy, was we need to find ways to get the tax exempt institutions to directly pay into the village. They give a lot as it is. They really do provide a lot of economic benefits with their teachers and students and families that come and spend their money here. They do great things, but it was part of our strategy that we set up early on. And what we've been able to do is there have been 3 transactions that the LDC has done with 3 of the institutions, including Children's Village, Mercy College, and the Master School. They were fairly big. In the case of Children's Village, it was a refinancing of bonds that they were refinancing to take advantage of low interest rates. In the case of Mercy College and the Master School, it was to do new capital projects, buildings. They went through the Dobbs Ferry Local Development Corporation, and we generated about $300,000 in fees from those 3 transactions. Important to know that the village there's no risk, there is 0 risk to the village, there's 0 risk to taxpayers under the LDC. It simply is a conduit, and it gets paid, it just passes money through. That's already there. The reinvestments that have been made it's a separate board from the Board of Trustees formed by the mayor with the mayor and 2 trustees that serve on it and 2 independent trustees that the mayor appoints and has to be voted by the other current board. The LDC is not just a rogue group, it can't just go out there and spend any money that it wants to, it has to take direction from the Board of Trustees. And the reinvestments that have been made of those monies there includes really a lot of major contributions to support the Dobbs Ferry Historical Society. We've really focused on that. The LDC is really set up to promote economic activity in the village and to do things that help the well-being and benefit all the residents. And Dobbs Ferry Historical, the more people we can get there and see what they're doing there, that brings tourism and residents. That's the idea there. So the LDC provided funding for completion of the historical kitchen. Hopefully you've all seen that. It's great. It's in the back of the mead house. A lot of enhancements to the mead house property and the building itself. Support for programming. And this is all in an effort to up that program and hopefully and it does attract visitors to the village for historical tourism. We've made public safety enhancements, funding for the crossing light, the new pedestrian crossing light at Broadway and Clinton was funded by the LDC, and that's part of the mission. It falls in, it's totally appropriate. It's for the benefit, the well-being, and safety of the residents. It's done tree trimming, contributed to tree trimming downtown. Again, business district, make the business district look good, look better, attract more people, economy. And it has also made some small contributions for lighting and some of the Fourth of July prices. A lot of people come in for that stuff, and that's again a sort of an economic argument. So that's what the LDC has done. And the LDC is considering making some other investments in some pretty significant projects now that we're going to get a presentation on a little bit later. We also do ongoing assessment of fees. I mean, that's part of the revenue picture, and it's not just to raise fees for the sake of raising fees. It's really a lot of work, a lot of thought goes into making sure that our fees are at least competitive. In other words, that we haven't not looked at fees or just at fees from 25 years ago. We want to absolutely make sure that the fees are fair and a good deal for Dobbs Ferry residents, but where we can get premium value and upgrade and get competitive rates, we want to make sure we're doing that. We've done that with the commuter waterfront parking. That, if you're a resident of Dobbs Ferry and you know what any other rates are up and down the line, it's a real deal to park at the Dobbs Ferry lot commuter parking. But we do get a premium from non-residents, a deal that we've had with RT for a long time, but again, we want to balance that from a revenue standpoint to make sure that the needs of the residents that want parking permits are met first. Building permits, the building department and Ed and his team go through this a lot. We were looking at the code years ago. There were, again, just a lot of outdated permits and fee structures that were good 20 years ago, but were not accurately reflecting today's value of contract work and today's real estate value. And there was some room to modify those a little bit. And new municipal parking resources, we're going to be talking about the new parking lot down at the bottom of Cedar Street. That's going to be revenue positive from day one. So that's basically what goes into sort of looking at the fees and reassessing them, but all part of the sort of revenue push. So conclusions and some successful takeaways. The financial strategy of the past 8 years, including enhancement of revenues, has significantly improved the village's financial condition today and its ability to make investments for the future. It's also helped to keep tax rates historically low for 8 successive years. That's a pretty good, this chart right here. That's not bad, and that's because of increased revenues. We've pretty much had to be able to keep it flat. We've got a lot of help, a team, a treasurer that works on that, the staff that works on to run the village more efficiently, Charlene, the budget committee has really helped out. Great record, much, much lower than our peers. We're now seeing revenues starting to go up, and that's hopefully the start of a new revenue. You know, that's just, this chart really shows you, that's sort of the lead lag time, is that when you have, you know, decades, literally decades of nothing happening, you fall so far behind, and it's so hard to catch up. But we're now starting to do that. It's allowed the village to maintain a strong A rating. The last newsletter talked about the Moody's rating, reaffirming the village's A rating. Just allowed us to borrow $7.5 million of bonds that are going to go into a new embassy center, major upgrades to Gould Memorial Park facilities. That's going to be a project that you guys, the board, are going to be taking on when you get in, and some public safety end-of-life replacements. These pieces of equipment here, they were really expensive, but they do have a lifetime, and they need to be replaced. But that's a good thing too, is that this strategy is going to be handing off to future boards a good situation, a situation where they can really get some work done, and the funding is there, the strong foundation is there to really further this effort and really make even greater improvements to Dobbs Ferry, and that's something to be proud of. It's helped the village improve its important historical assets. How many of you go into the Little White Church Cemetery? Yeah, not enough. You ought to go in there. You ought to see it and look at what it used to look like, you know, back in the day, and what it looks like now. Yeah, there are little trees in there actually, but what was in there before was indescribable. It was like Mordor, okay? The Black Forest of Mordor. And, you know, that kind of attitude is exactly it, is that actually historical cemeteries didn't have trees. And that's what historical experts will tell you, is that you want to bring those things back to life. That's how they should look. Now, you can plant trees if you want to, but really more importantly than the trees, because the trees that were in there before were dead and dying and actually falling on people and would have at some point killed somebody, is we now have, most of the headstones have been brought back up, have been fixed, and you go in there and you take a look at how proud of this village's history. And try to walk through that thing when it was like that before, you couldn't even walk 2 feet. Now you can walk all through there, and you can see names that go back in this village and some streets. You'll see names that go back to the Revolutionary War. That place has quite a history. If you haven't been there, shame on you. You should go there. That is a jewel for Dobbs Ferry. And again, revenues and smart fiscal planning allow you to do that. Yeah, maybe you do cut down a little bit of trees, but man, what you get is really incredible. We did a lot of work I talked about for the meat house. Oh, energy savings projects. We would not, there is no village that has invested more in sustainable projects, in energy saving projects than Dobbs Ferry. Thank God for Nina Orville and her group, the Energy Task Force. What a great bunch of volunteers they've been. But the approach that we took on the revenues and the economic approach that we took with the task force, we have invested, the Dobbs Ferry that is, more than any village around here. And by doing that, we've encouraged more savings and getting better bottom line results. So we can invest more for things that are good for the environment when you've got a healthy revenue picture coming in. And that's been a major part of the strategy. It's helped revitalize the downtown business district. I think that we came in 2009, 30% of the villages were vacant. The storefronts were vacant.
More than that, but.
It was more than that. We did, yeah, 40%. It was a bad picture. There's still some empty storefronts, but not too many down there right now. Significant improvements in public safety, and it's allowed the village to fund and complete large capital projects with confidence. First action we took, the very first action we took in 2010, our first meeting, second meeting, we committed over $1 million of village funds to the waterfront project. Prior board didn't do that because they couldn't. They didn't know where the revenues were coming from. They didn't have a plan. But we had a plan, we executed it, and because of that, we were able to make that commitment and make that project happen because it needed it to get over the goal line. And that's the beauty of the project. So, you know what? Part of this is a little bit about the legacy tour, but there's a lot of people that have been involved with this. And it's been a great team effort. And I want to, again, say that we didn't all agree on these projects. But even when we disagreed, Rivertown Square, whatever it was, the minority opinion was listened to and many times incorporated into the final resolution to make those projects better. And that was really, really important. We've worked with Bob's group and the most villages don't want to have ad hoc citizens budget committees. You don't want them poking around, but we work with them. And they've always agreed, but we found really good ways, and they were really, really helpful. And Jeff has done an extraordinary job as treasurer, and Charlene now is the administrator, and it's been a real team effort. And I went way too long here, but I wanted to give that presentation because I think it's really important that you see this aspect of it. And again, we're still not all going to agree, but those are real numbers, and I think the strategy's really paid off, and we should all feel very good as, well, if nothing else, as taxpayers and people who have investments in Dobbs Ferry. You all should feel pretty good about the future. It looks very, very bright. Thanks for bearing with me on that one. I just shot the timing, didn't I? There's always an over-under, how long we're going to go. And whoever had the under, I'm afraid is going to lose the bet tonight. Yeah, thanks for paying attention to that. I hope it was somewhat helpful in education. Okay, so now we're going to hear a presentation on the Cedar Street sidewalk plan. Charlene, do we want to build this up in any way, or do you want to have Ed come up, or?
Yeah, I think Ed and Paul will do the job.
Okay.
This is in conjunction with the parking lot, which will have somewhere in the vicinity of 96 parking spaces, and in fact will start tomorrow.
That's 99 Cedar Street, right? Down at the
99
bottom.
Cedar Street.
The old
which is the old
DPW facility. So that work is commencing tomorrow. I mean, it's already
Yes.
kind of commenced, but it's really going to start.
No, it's
You're gonna
really,
see-
yeah,
Okay.
shovels in the ground.
And this project is sort of in conjunction with that as, well, I think you'll see how it ties in, you'll see how the public feels about it.
Yes, I think it'll tie in for economic development, to tell you the truth.
So as the mayor just told you, the Cedar Street parking lot is starting tomorrow. After the fire in unfortunate fire that we had a few years ago. The Board of Trustees decided that parking lot would best serve the village with a replacement there. So as we looked at that and how people would use it, you know, it was apparent that it's a pretty dangerous and struggle to walk up that hill from Palisade Street to Main Street. So we thought about how we could make that a little easier and people would be able to use the parking lot better and get up to visit the restaurants and shops on Main and Cedar. So we spoke to Paul, and he came up with an idea to terrace the sidewalk, to add steps, and make it more walkable, and I'll let him explain that now.
So, this is really a simple project. It's a sidewalk project with a twist, that's it, okay? So we looked at this, and one thing we found out is that, especially in the winter, when people walk down here, and the sidewalks are not in good shape, when they walk down here, many people told me in the winter, they get down here, and then they walk out the street, okay? Because this is treacherous. I guess at one point in time in the history of this, okay, there was railing here, and somebody cut the railing, they burned them off. So this is basically an 18% grade, which is not a very walkable grade, okay? And then as it takes off from here, it goes up there, it's 13%. So, looking at this and trying to encourage people to come up here, and also for safety purposes, we're gonna do something really different. We're gonna put stairs and landings in. They're gonna start right in front of 164 Palisade, and here's what the colors represent here, okay? The green is landings. This white here is steps. So there's 8 sets of steps that will come and start over here. There'll be steps midpoint at this 164. There'll be a landing, there'll be a space here. There'll be a landing in green, another set of steps, a landing. And as the landings progress up, as you progress up here, you don't need steps anymore. We did add a set of steps right at the top of the hill. I think it probably looks really, it's gonna look really nice. There'll be a railing on the outboard side, okay? It'll be about, the steps will be about 7 feet wide and taper, 2 houses, okay, that's on the drawing. 2 houses are actually have entrances that are out into the public right of way, and historically, so on the roof, they'll have to touch that. And the peak is like area is a lower area, because the railing will be up here. It'll be a stamped concrete format. We have a couple of driveways, so we do the aprons. The whole thing's coming down, okay? There's different kinds of sidewalk in there. There's concrete, there's macadam, there's stone. And we're going to send the job out to bid. We're going to ask the contractor to find the kind of stone that was put on Main Street. So continuing the theme that comes down here, we're going to abandon the theme of the bricks, okay? It's a little hard to maintain. That's it. It's different. It's just a sidewalk job with a twist.
John Paul, do you have the other view of what it sort of looks like from so kind of visually, people could get a sense of what the proposal looks like? You know, as you're going up the hill, you know?
So, this is not an elevation view, this is without, this is the existing condition view, and these are the houses, okay, the front on there. Actually, the position they fall in the street. And then we do have elevation view, okay, maybe a little hard to see out there, but, so this is 164 Palisade, so that's the corner, so this is a continuous profile that comes up the street. There's an old garage door, okay, on 164, and a door which has when you come out the door, you go right down. So we're going to start the platform just to the south of that door, so that'll be facing, that's a power strip, State Street, a nice level landing, and then here's where you start climbing up the steps, okay? And, so that's about, this is all through the side of 164, with the side of 164 looking out of Cedar. There's an opening in here, and then we have another set of steps. Oops. And that continues all the way up, and this is what we call the library building, and there'll be one set of steps there. That's it. These are the two houses. There's houses that have entrances that look out towards the street. Okay, they're out in the public right away before the years.
So can I just ask, Paul, this is clearly not an ADA compliant thing, so people can people cross the street and go up the street who are in a wheelchair?
Well, you know, this is a difficult situation to deal with because it's 13%.
Right.
The road, if you took an average grade, it's 13%.
Right.
So ADA wants you to have grades in the order of 1 on 12, which is about 8%. So, you know, you really can't meet that, okay? And that's it.
I know, but you can cross the, what I'm saying
But on
is
the
you
other
can
side
cross
of the
street,
street.
right?
Side, yeah.
The other
Right.
side has
The other
curved
side is
cuts and no steps.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to confirm.
And it's a site.
Right.
Can't do it
You
now.
would have to go to the other side of the carriage.
The other side of Palisade Street and then go off.
No, the other side is Cedar.
On the
No,
other
I
side is
understand that, but where would the steps start?
Steps
Right
are
at the
just
corner?
on the south side of Cedar.
Now, let's do this.
No, right at the corner, as the corner curves, the steps
Let's
will
go,
start?
let's go to the,
Past the curve.
let's go to the.
Steps are on the outside and then it stays sloped on the inside,
So,
It's like they have two different.
this is Palisade.
No,
That's the face of 164.
it'll be
steps, then
flat.
You see how this comes down like that? And there's a door over here where these people go
Right.
out like this?
Right.
Okay? That's where the first set of stairs are gonna be. They're gonna be right here. Then it's gonna be the landing.
So you'd have to cross Palisade Street
Yes,
to the
Other side.
other side
that's right.
in order to get across Cedar Street to go up the hill on the left-hand
That's
side.
right. But we now have, the parking lot is going in, and there's gonna be new crosswalks put in, and new sidewalks on the opposite side of Palisade,
Understood.
so you can come out. And the theme has been worked out pretty good, where you're gonna have the crosswalk, okay, that's gonna exit onto, allow you to cross from Palisade, west to east, okay, so you get to the stairs, or you make the choice, and you go north a little bit, okay, on Palisades, to be another crosswalk, there is a crosswalk there now, it's gonna be improved, and then you can go, and you can choose to go up the north side of Cedar.
Okay, but there's also gonna be an entrance and exit from that parking lot, as I understand now, onto Palisade Street.
Yes, there will be.
Why?
Well, first of all, you wanna be able to get in and out of the parking lot, okay?
Well, there's already an entrance on Cedar Street side.
Yeah, but
Why
then
would you take and have to raise the elevation of the parking lot and lose parking spaces on Palisade Street? We don't have a lot of parking here on Palisade Street. Where you have a level entrance on the Cedar Street side that's already there. Why would you then move the entrance to the parking lot onto Palisade Street? With that corner, as you come down and you go to make the turn,
I got you.
there's gonna be an exit from the parking lot.
I understand.
That's already a traffic hazard.
Okay. Those parking spaces shouldn't be there in the first place.
Why?
Why? Because they're too close to the intersection.
So you remove one, but to have an exit and entrance of a parking lot as people are turning the corner, isn't that a hazard?
No, it's not, okay?
But the intersection is already a hazard,
It's
as it
already
is
a
now.
hazard.
Listen,
That
you're not supposed to
intersection.
become, we discussed this at length, okay, and we found out, if you need to have an exit coming out, okay, and it's sufficiently far, and you have enough sight distance from the corner to come out.
And how many parking spaces are we losing on the street?
How many?
How many?
One?
One, and you are creating an exit that comes out
On the corner.
on the corner
decide, that's not about this drawing, so we're gonna push this crosswalk further down. So there's,
Because you're losing more parking spaces.
Impossible to do it at once.
But excuse me,
into
why can't you just use the entrance and exit that's already on Cedar Street? That's been
circulation
used
in the
for,
parking lot didn't work.
Okay,
what?
listen, let me try to explain it, okay? Because you want an explanation. I don't have the parking lot drawings with me, but right now, okay, the great differential between Cedar Street, okay, and all the way down to the parking area is 15 feet. You don't see it now. You see some evergreens there that are loosely cut down. There's a retaining, there's a fence, so you can't see it now. There's a retaining wall, okay? If the fence wasn't there, you could probably go down there tomorrow, the fence is gonna be gone. It's 10 feet down.
Right.
Okay, so that's, so you have to raise the grade, okay, to get the parking lot to drain and work, okay, and you have to build a new retaining wall. You can't just jump down into the parking lot. The only way you can enter the new parking lot is go all the way down to the east end of the parking lot and come in. And then you have a circulation pattern that comes about. Okay.
For how many years, probably as older than I am, that the village equipment went in and out of that entrance and exit on Cedar
Yeah,
Street.
but Fred, now we're
They
talking
did
about
not go
70
down
cars.
10 feet to a parking lot. They went in and out on the same grade as
We changed the
Cedar
grade.
Street.
We
We
changed
changed
it.
the grade, and that was just trucks coming in now and then. There's gonna be
Now and then.
seven,
All day long.
Have you
Yeah, there was
considered,
like
have you
8
considered that we already have
there's
a
gonna be
parking lot?
72
Hey,
cars.
guy, you know,
Circulation.
I think we maybe take this up. The parking lot is being built, and it went through a lot of discussion, and the design to have the circular makes a lot of sense. And I think if there is one space that might be lost on Palisade, that probably shouldn't be there anyway. The village is picking up 97 additional spaces. So, okay, we all, we just, we're not all gonna agree on everything, right? But I think the village and the board believes that this is a project that is hugely beneficial for the downtown area, hugely beneficial for your neighborhoods, that will create additional parking and will help the businesses as well. And if there's anything that you hear about from everybody, it is the parking problem in downtown. So, I think maybe we're missing the bigger picture here a
No,
little bit.
no, I understand what you're saying, Harvey. My concern is 145 Palisade Street already has enough traffic with Mercy College. We have 4 school bus stops in there. I got the email that tomorrow we start construction. Do we have a plan B for our children? That is a stop sign right in that corner, one in front of my apartment building, and 2 further down, and the construction starts tomorrow.
Charlene, you'll look into if there's any issues with any buses.
Yeah,
If it hasn't already been looked into,
I-
please look into that, make sure that that's
Chief
done.
actually has
So
a
we
plan.
already on board with the plan where the children are going to actually board the bus while the construction is in place, if it starts tomorrow.
There's a bus stop directly opposite. right
I
above-
believe
Yeah,
the
we
chief
worked
had,
that out. We worked that
yeah.
out with the police chief.
the
okay?
chief has spoken to the bus companies, has spoken to the school, so that's been organized already.
Okay, so that's been done.
I don't know what the plan is.
So, we're gonna, comments on the sidewalk, please, Bruce, we'll limit to the sidewalk project here, because that's what's. Probably better that people hear you, but if we can, yeah,
Basically, yeah, I'm not against this. My concern is, this is me. Whereas,
I'm sorry, one second,
I think,
Ed.
oh,
you
Bruce
just move-
Richards,
move it
153
back.
Main Street, the old library is my building.
going out
My
quietly
concern
here.
is, I don't know how many kids, I've got a bus stop. See what happens if you, when you agree to disagree. I've got, this is a big bus stop area. I've got the ramp, I've got bus stops, I got kids. And my concern is, I like the idea of leveling out that corner, basically as you go north on, the east on Main and then start going down Cedar, towards Palisade, there's a decline. I mean, that's when the decline starts immediately. My problem has always been, and I do all the shoveling, is that this area catches the morning sun, the corner facing Sushi Mike, so everybody can be familiar. That melt then runs down the sidewalk and then becomes black ice almost immediately because the building keeps this whole side is in shade until maybe 11 a.m., something like that. And so my concern is that the levelness of this at least gets pitched so that the water runoff can go out towards Cedar Street or maybe even back towards Main Street, because if it runs down onto these new steps, now I've got black ice on the steps. And then I'm liable, and that's my concern. I just need to make sure that, they're gonna cover up a window on this side of the building, and then to get the steps, no big deal. But all I'm saying is, if this thing's gotta be pitched in such a way that all of a sudden the runoff from this area getting sun in the morning doesn't just go down here in the shade, and now I've got this slip and slide at this point. Because many times I've almost thought about installing a railing along here, just because once you start going down, you're just going down. The incline is really bad. So anything that can be done to kind of make sure that the runoff of this whole thing doesn't just keep going down and build up more black ice further down and further down. That's all I'm asking.
Paul, do you want to address that?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the nice things about this whole improvement is we're gonna remove the curbing too, and there's a quarter inch, an eighth of an inch cross pitch, okay, built into the sidewalks, where it has no cross pitch right now. And they undulate, okay, and they're broken, and they're chipped up. And so, that's all we thought out in the engineering. We spent a lot of time shooting grades. All of these numbers in here represent tops and bottoms of curve that were worked out, shot very accurately, okay, to about an eighth of an inch, okay, so that we could get this thing to pitch out, okay, pitch out this way. And the water will run.
So the concern that Mr. Richards had, that this will alleviate that concern.
And currently the gutters are less than 6. I mean, that's a street issue, but over the period of time, with the re-asphalting, now the gutter, the curb, people are constantly, especially in the winter, they just slide right up on the curb and they park on the sidewalk because there's not enough curb to prevent the tires from, keep on coming up. And so, is that when that sidewalk is redone, is the curb then going to be the standard 6 inches? Or
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's been worked out.
Okay, I don't doubt you, Paul.
6 inches.
Does that, Bruce, are you okay? Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, I've got to get out there about 4 in the morning to shovel before the kids show up by 7. That's my problem. And so if the task becomes, I've got 40 feet in the front, 80 feet down the slope, and then my driveway. So I've got like 160 feet to do by myself. And so if the mini course, I feel like I'm playing golf sometimes, but if you make the course a little more difficult for me, I don't need any more hazards on that hill. That's all. And that's my concern. And that black ice area has been a concern ever since I've moved there. So if that can be alleviated to any certain degree, that would be much appreciated.
I think, from what I understand of the design, the railing, there will be a railing now, and the stairs are a more sort of organized way to deal with the grade. So everything else being equal. Pardon me?
We'll have the bars, you're going to have an infill. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm shoveling, let's just say, and I've got barrier, where do I put the snow?
Railing is just at the steps, so you can still go under.
So I can wedge it underneath?
Yeah.
I know you can't use a blower, and I can't blow, I have to make sure I don't get it on the car, I have to put it in between the cars, everything is a hand tool. I've yet to find a tool that I can use that allows me to do that job quickly or faster. So, basically,
Paul will get you one.
Huh?
Maybe Paul will get you one.
Okay, give me somebody to push it. Okay.
We're gonna take the tree down.
Any other comments on the sidewalk? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make a comment on that, as you mentioned, that ADA compliance, how it's really not ADA compliant, it's probably is the expectation then that, you know, if people come and they're in a wheelchair and they park in the parking lot, that they're going to have to cross, you know, make an extra cross across a potentially busier, you know, intersection, especially, you know, on a weekend night, they're gonna have to cross the street twice to be able to get up to the restaurants or businesses that they're trying.
They have to do that now.
Yes.
You can never make that ADA compliant over there.
They can come out of the Cedar Street side of the parking lot and come up this side and cross at this point.
Right, okay.
And those aren't busy, those are not busy, would not be busy crosswalks down. Bottom end. It's not busy at all.
Right, and they build it and they will come, right? Isn't that the saying? But-
Well, hopefully, yeah, but I mean,
I would also say like that
It was like
intersection
the
at the top of Cedar and, Main, you know, getting back across that at times can be treacherous, you know, because it's, certain cars don't stop, and if you're not familiar with that, it could be, it just seems like a bit of an excess to have people now cross 3 times, if, let's say they're going to somewhere on Main Street. I don't know, it just thought I'd make that.
Well,
Is there no way to like have, instead of stairs, like smaller pitched ramps or mini ramps or?
It's really steep,
It's
that's
an
what.
it's an
It's too
18
steep, okay.
we're eliminating something that the best word to describe it is treacherous. And we're putting stairs.
If you walk that area now, you'd see it isn't someplace that unless you were an amazing athlete that you could safely navigate
No,
in a wheelchair.
that corner down at the Cedar and Palisade is on the west side of the street, that's, I mean, nobody that touches that thing in the winter, you're gonna go down, it's just way too slippery. Way too slippery.
There would be real,
It's hard.
wheelchair parking on Cedar, closer up towards the businesses though, correct?
Yeah, there's handicap
So you wouldn't
parking
have
up
to
there.
go
There is handicap parking.
Yes.
Ideally, you'd have a parking spot closer to begin with.
But there's just the one.
Oh, no? No, I'm pretty sure, anybody know exactly how many parking?
Well, there's definitely more
I
than
think
one
there's
handicap
three.
spot on
We're talking
Cedar.
about the
Yeah.
lower section of Cedar.
Oh, the lower section,
Just
because
like
it's a,
the-
it's
up
a
by the
library,
stores, this line.
Well, along Cedar, there are
Along
handicap
Cedar
parking
and
spots.
along, yeah,
Correct.
and along Main too.
How are you redesigning the stop signs in that one? It's just famous by having accidents and people turning without just really opening themselves, not as open as they could, and there has been a couple of accidents in there. So now with the entrance and the exit, how are you going to place the stop sign on that?
No, no change to the stop signs. If the traffic committee wants to address something like that, that would be, you know, their prerogative.
So the exit that it comes out into, Palisade will not have a stop sign for the person to stop before they actually come out of the parking?
But it's
Yeah.
not-
Yeah.
yes,
That,
coming out of the.
Where exactly is the driveway going to come up down Palisade Street?
Very close to the 145 border.
So right in the middle of both parking.
Nancy?
Do you have a picture of the parking lot? Yeah, can you see something? I mean, we haven't had any input, and we live on the street, and it impacts us dramatically, and we haven't had any input or any information about this. You're just coming in and, you know.
No, there was a
doing
No,
presentation.
we
There
made
was
a no,
presentation on it.
that's not true. We've made a presentation on it, we've talked about this at these board meetings, at least on 2 other occasions. It was in my newsletter twice, there's been a lot of information, I'm sorry. There's been a lot of information. If you missed it, I'm sorry, but there has been a lot of information about this. Very happy to show if get you another picture of the parking lot, but there's been a lot of information that's been communicated about this. Yes, Freddie?
I understand the concerns quite a bit about the sidewalks and, you know, it's impossible to make it ADA compliant and, how the, one side, on the Bruce's side, is almost impossible to board coming down, you might be coming down differently than you want to. But, to me, should be more concerned about the traffic and public safety at that particular intersection of Cedar and Palisade with the entrance and exit coming out onto Palisade Street. If someone came out of the parking lot and wanted to make a left-hand turn to go to Cedar Street, there's a few cars parked there also. I have no idea how that person would be able to get out of there safely. Not only that,
So the board of
but the
trustees has
thing
already
is,
looked that
you
up.
also have school buses, you have trucks delivering to 145, you have everyone that works at 145, and you have approximately 50 cars that work, that are for Mercy College, and buses for Mercy College. Now, every day, from morning till night, those Mercy College cars are back and forth, and the shuttle bus. The delivery stopped in the evening for 145. But for public safety, the people who park in that parking lot are still gonna have to be able to cross Cedar or Palisade one way or the other. And what are we gonna do? Put a traffic light there and a walk light so that these people have access? You know, you just can't come down and continue the way it is now. And if you go in the morning, God bless you, because those people going to the train are not stopping, no matter what. They don't stop for the stop signs now. So, it's a real public safety issue. Walk lights, traffic lights, something is gonna be added in there, without a doubt.
Each one to address the turnout?
The board of trustees has already brought that up and was suggesting that the exit onto Palisade Street be right turn only. So you're concerned about making a left towards Cedar.
Right.
Would be gone.
So all the traffic is gonna go down Palisade.
So if you wanted to come out to Cedar, you'd come out the Cedar exit.
Or you exit the other exit on Cedar, and you
And
make a
go up.
right and go up Cedar.
Make a right and go
Well,
up.
why don't you just use the Cedar Street exit?
It's not an, by the way, it's not an entrance. It's only an exit.
It's only an exit
Only an exit.
on Cedar.
That's right.
No.
Palisade.
Palisade is only an exit.
Only an exit on Palisade.
I think it would be very beneficial if we make that move of making it only a left.
Only an exit.
Mhm.
And only a right turn
Only
exit.
right.
Only
Right
right
turn
turn.
only, right.
Let's do that
So-
for Mercy.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So that's in the plan.
You know?
Also, I think it should be pointed out, Mercy,
Can we do that with Mercy College also? Let them go to the right. You don't have to, that left turn, same situation.
We could tell them. I don't know if we can,
That's why I thought we'd have to talk to the.
But-
also Mercy College,
We could
that's
ask
not a
them.
permanent situation. Suppose, I don't know how long it's gonna be, but,
But it's there now.
You can do
yeah,
that. You can do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Put a sign that a right turn only.
but it wouldn't just be them, you could just make the whole thing, just.
We can make
right
it
turn
one
only.
way,
No left turn.
no left turn.
So that could be done.
Mayor,
That would be very.
let's send it to the traffic.
So we'll have the traffic committee look at that. So everyone's clear. The exit on the Palisade or the opening there will be exit only, and only right-hand exit. The Cedar Street will be enter and exit, which is down in the corner there. And then we will approach, we will send a recommendation to the police chief and to the traffic committee to look at the 145 Palisade exit and see if their recommendation might be that that should only be right turn as well. If that's what you think down there, if you think
That would actually make a lot of
if
sense.
that would make sense as a neighborhood.
I think it will help the safety a lot, because I think that we are resolving one issue, but we might be creating
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that.
Point, yeah.
So we'll do that. Yes, Vicki?
I would just like to say, I don't live on that street, but it would seem to me that if you're gonna be making, that's gonna drive more cars down Palisade Street through the residential area if they all have to turn right.
It might.
It would seem to me that you would want it to be more onto the through traffic I don't know the flow, but it would seem to me that on my street, I wouldn't want more cars being directed towards my street, where the residential area is, but get them out on the main street as quick as possible. But, you know, that's up to Maura and the people that live there, but to me, it seems like you're gonna be pushing a lot more traffic down Palisade Street. Thank you.
I don't know, maybe not.
No, because if you want to exit and go back up.
You can go to
Street,
Cedar.
You can exit then through the Cedar. The Cedar Street, the current one, is, no, you could do it all the same as one. The current one is, the idea that people can just turn right there if they want to exit the village. If you
Not
want
for
to exit the
145.
village, you go back to the Cedar Street,
Not for 145.
and go back up to Cedar.
Okay, you know, so we're gonna direct that, those recommendations to the traffic committee and the police chief and see what they come back with. And, absolutely certainty that no final decision will be made until it's communicated to the neighborhood and you all look at this again. The concept is it's gonna happen, it's happening. That decision's been made, but we're gonna make certain that the flow is as safe as it possibly can be and as efficient. I mean, everybody wants that, so. Okay, any other, yeah, Freddie, sure.
In a situation like tomorrow, when there's no parking on both sides of the street, how long is this gonna be in effect?
And no traffic there.
No traffic whatsoever coming through there at all. So people going to the training when they're gonna get a surprise, I
They
guess.
can't go that way.
We can't go.
The buses and people can come, northbound on, City.
Oh, we can't come down south then.
Early in the morning too, with the traffic for the train and everything, not gonna be south and on.
Just at that corner or the whole street?
That
All
corner.
of Palisade is gonna be closed going south?
Just that corner,
How far down?
You can't.
towards, to 145 is the traffic.
No, it's not.
One 45.
Not close.
How long is that parking?
That's where the signs are.
How long will that be?
How long is the parking gonna be blocked?
As they work on digging up the sidewalk and the retaining walls, and
Yes.
so Paul should have a better idea of how long it's
Yeah,
gonna
the
take.
contract is gonna start tomorrow. Ed Manning and I sat down with the contractor the other day. And he said that we were gonna have exactly the kind of, questions that you're asking now about the wall. So the retaining wall is the first wall, the retaining wall at the corner over here is the harness element to install, okay? And we're not gonna block the traffic until the precast concrete wall sections are purchased, okay, and delivered. And we're gonna probably take about 2.5 weeks to put that in. During that period of time, okay, when they're putting in that wall, it's gonna have to have that part of the street closed off. The contractor said yesterday, when he completes that activity, okay, even though he has to do the sidewalk over, he's gonna open up the street again, okay, and when he goes back in to do the sidewalks, which, given the weather conditions, probably gonna be in the spring, okay, so he's not gonna close it down for the whole period of time.
I guess one of the problems I got is, I've got tenants down here that, you know, their notification was coming home tonight. When they saw a red sign, there's gonna be, people looking for parking, and then when they get up in the morning, how they're gonna get back out of that street. I have no objection to what we're doing with the sidewalk or even the parking lot. I just have an objection to the fact, that, yeah, we heard about it, but we had no details that have ever been discussed until tonight.
Right.
And then, you know, there's no notification to the people who are down there. They're affected most. They were gonna send them an email tonight, but they won't even see it till tomorrow morning.
Well, listen, we're gonna start, and tomorrow I'm gonna be down there.
Yeah,
And if they don't need.
Will the police be down there
shut
tomorrow?
those
Let me just
parking
say something. The
spaces.
police will be down there tomorrow, be on top of it.
Okay, it's not gonna, they're not gonna
I
knock
don't
this
know if
thing
it's
out
been
till
communicated
3 months.
earlier or
Okay,
sooner.
they're not gonna say you can't park there for 3 months. It's gonna have a little fluid, and a little movement up there, and a little understanding, contractors need to do it. And we can then do it.
And when you notify your tenant, you should encourage them to sign up for the village's websites, because there's been 2 or 3 emails about the parking limitations.
I'm on the website. And I read them.
No, I got email notifications about the construction in Cedar and the parking issue. So I would encourage everybody that lives in the downtown to sign up for those so they can be aware when these things happen or when we have advance notice about utility stuff. It's the same thing. So
I got that notice today, but there's been no detail about what's been going on here in the land.
Okay, Charlene, we're gonna make sure that the police are down there,
Yes.
working with Paul and the contractor, and all this public safety issues will be looked after very carefully. There'll be some inconvenience, for some period of time, but it should go pretty quickly. And, to make sure we're on top of it. And anything else that changes, just make sure that they're being notified if somebody has to go down there and put flyers out, whatever, but just do whatever we can to make sure it's being properly notified. Or, I know it is properly notified, but the sooner the better, and I understand their frustration on some of that, so. Okay, we're gonna need to move on, but we'll take some more, and anybody that wants to see a picture of it, that's available at Village Hall, they can just come in, is that big?
Yeah,
You
we
have that
have,
big,
we have
they wanna see the outline, that is available. So we're gonna move on, wow, we're just getting to the public hearing now. So the next item on the agenda is a continuation of public hearing for the purpose of consideration of an application to amend the official village map, renaming Livingstone Street as Stone Street. Again, Stone Street is just sort of a placement holder right now. I don't think we've decided 100% yet. Okay, in order to do this, I need a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a motion? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Basillo, discussion, all in favor? Okay, the public hearing is open. Anybody here to speak on this? I know you are. And I guess just to give some background here, I'll speak on behalf of the board. I'm not sure that we've decided yet on what the name should be. Also, we were working on a checklist. Larry, have we worked through that checklist, or we?
We do have a checklist, and Charlene had done a lot of work researching what needs to be done at the state, at the county, and through the different service providers, as well as mail delivery and related things. And so we have a list ready to go to be able to check the things that we need to and make sure that the appropriate groups all know that the names are going to be changed.
Okay. Again, not to speak for the board, but my sense is I think everybody on the board feels like it's a good idea. And so there's no issue there. We just need a name. And I had offered out to anybody who had any suggestions, and not too much really came in.
No.
I think what has been suggested so far is Hamilton Street, Stone Street. Was it Patty who suggested Stoner Street? That was one too? I don't know, I don't think that one works. But those are the really only two names that have come up. I don't know if anybody has any really strong feelings about a name.
Was Quack Quack.
Okay. An Indian name.
Was Quack Quack.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a mouthful.
Wicker's Creek then.
Okay.
Is there something, I don't know, can we set a date for people to send stuff in? Or
Yeah,
can
we
we
can
ask
set
the
next
Historical
week,
Society
the
to
next
give
time
us?
we meet, we can set that as a date that if anybody has any strong opinions or suggestions about a name, to send them in, and then the board can look at that ahead of time. Otherwise, we will decide the next time we meet. If you want to do it that way, we can
Should
do
we
it that way.
approach the Historical
We can approach the
Society
Historical
to give
Society.
us some suggestions as well?
Hey, Jeff, could you put that mic back kind of where it usually is, and then
Oh,
we
yeah.
can take comments from people? And this is appreciate it, thanks, man. Great. Okay, so Nancy.
Hi, Nancy Delmarco, 80 Grandview, going right past Vicky's house, away from Ashland. I don't know if you got an email, about the Hamilton Street name, the idea, if you know the background to that. But, Jean Fritz was a noted author, recently passed away. And the planning board has suggested a historical female figure, Dobbsbury. Her name came up. And my sister is good friends with Jane's daughter. So I spoke to Andrea Fritz, and her brother happened to walk into the house, believe it or not, and they both discussed that they would prefer to not have that area have their mother's name, but it's in Fritz Boulevard or something. So, and many of you might know the history of her writing a lot of historical books. She used to sign them and her stuff and children's books. So, to make a long story short, Andrea and her brother discussed one of the books that they relates to Duxbury, which is about Alexander Hamilton. So that's where that name came from. And personally, I think it's a nice word. It's a great play.
It is.
It's timely in a lot of ways, and it seems like an easy solution. So. But
Yeah, I love that
family
name.
did
That's a
recommend
great,
that.
I love that name too. That's a great story, Nancy. Thanks for that perspective. Thank you very much. Yes?
So, hi, I'm Karina Ream. I live at 30 Livingston Avenue, without the E, if you're taking notes. I really appreciate the board being supportive of this name change. I have a new level of drama to add to my missed deliveries. Today, usually my food goes to 30 Livingstone, and today I got food at my house for 30 Livingstone. So, it's just a...
So it's ongoing. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a continual...
Was it good?
I don't know, it's a pizza of some sort, just to underscore, this is a daily occurrence for people who live on my street. Every Friday and Saturday night, I'm redirecting lost iPick patrons. And, I would really appreciate, as would the majority of the people who live on my street, as well as the business owners over on Livingstone, if we could come to a swift resolution on this, because it's been going on for quite some time. And, as you know about the EMS situation, I would hope we could all work together to be proactive more than reactive if something, catastrophic were to happen where somebody didn't get the help that they needed. So I really appreciate you guys undertaking this, and I know it's a lot of work, and I'm sure the checklist is a daunting task, many tasks, but I do really appreciate it on behalf of Livingstonians. Thank you.
Right, very
We
nice.
also are in support of the name of Hamilton, so thank you.
Yeah, okay, so there's 2 votes right now. Okay. Hamilton, what do we think?
Sounds good.
I'm good. Let's do it now. Yes, Bruce?
Alexander Hamilton's son was one of the founders of the Episcopal Church of Zion.
Yes, I know.
So, I mean, if you're really trying to scratch, Hamilton would fit into there as well. So.
Yes, he spent a lot of time in Duxbury.
No, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor's son actually did a presentation on that.
Yep, he did. That's true. It's still online on the historical site.
There's no Colonel Brown getting thrown.
Not knowing that any of this.
Okay, well, thanks for those comments. What do we think? Hamilton? This would be Hamilton, just Hamilton? Not Alexander Hamilton, but Hamilton?
Just Hamilton. Because the son was
Hamilton.
here too, so.
So, okay, so we're just gonna capture
Hamilton Way?
Hamilton Street, Hamilton Avenue, Hamilton Way. Hamilton Way?
Like way.
Way, Hamilton Way, okay?
Is there a definition of street versus
Okay.
way versus lane?
I don't know.
Yeah,
We're gonna go with Hamilton Way.
Well, I don't know, way sounds to me less like a commercial.
I say street personally.
Yeah, I would say
Hamilton
street.
Street, okay.
And somebody needs to just research to make sure that there's not a
Part of the
Hamilton
checklist
Street
will be-
somewhere else in Dobbs.
Is
Or-
anybody aware
Let's not
of
change
another
the name.
Hamilton Street?
I am not, but I'm just saying, let's be
Right.
sure.
So that's part of our checklist, is we'll check on that name Hamilton.
Surrounding
And Hamilton-
villages
areas, how
and
close
Surrounding
to
areas,
Hamilton
make sure
is.
that you're not gonna get, or someone's not gonna get another Hamilton mixed up here, so that part is. Otherwise, we'll be back here, sorry, one more time, and on the resolution will be Hamilton Street.
We'll renotice it, Mayor, for.
So we need to renotice it, and that'll be the placeholder And that'll be the name that we'll really consider it, and we'll take action at that time.
Can we renotice it today?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'll be on for the 28th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get Liz before.
Okay.
Somebody's looking it up now.
You're looking up Hamilton?
Now, let us know what you find
You're gonna
out.
wind up in White Plains.
Okay, I think we're good, right? So I'll take a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor? Great. Thank you very much for the comments, and we'll wrap this up next time when we're here.
Mayor, can we just take a motion to notice the public hearing for November 28th?
Yep.
Change the map from Livingstone Avenue to Hamilton Street.
Okay, I'll say that, Megan, that I'll take a motion to set a public hearing for Tuesday, November 28th at 7:30 PM here at Village Hall for the purpose of consideration of an application to amend the village map renaming Livingstone Street as Hamilton Street. Is there a motion? Trustee Golio, second. Trustee Wasillo, all in favor? Great, that passes with 6 ayes. Okay. Motion to close the public hearing, you did that?
Yep.
So we're good, okay. Courtesy of the floor, is there anybody, I'm sorry that some of you had to wait so long, but is there anybody like to address? Ed, yes.
Ed Hennessy, 80 Bellwood Avenue, and I own the property at 148, 150 Palisade Street. In all due respect to the board and the mayor, there's been information about the parking lot and about the sidewalk work, but no details have ever been brought up, none. And I think the people of Palisade Street and people who live on Cedar Street on that hill or own the properties, they were due a little respect of the fact that they should have been notified of what exactly was going on, because it's going to affect their life. It's going to affect the daily life of the people on Palisade Street for quite a while. Whether or not you really need that exit coming out of Palisade Street, you know, that could have been gone over and the reason could have been brought up. I don't understand it myself. I don't see a need for it, but, you know, there probably would be one. Paul, I'm sure, came up with one. But I think you did a disservice to the people, not having a public hearing of some sort, giving out the details of what was being planned. So I'm sorry. That's it.
Thank you, Ed. Anybody else care to address the board? Vicki?
Hello, Vicki Jones, 55 Grandview Avenue, Duxbury, New York. I'm here on behalf of some of my friends in the back, Robin Altman, Paula McCormick, Jude, my next door neighbor, and Trustee Delmerico, former Trustee Delmerico. Anyhow, I just want to let you know that we had put together a petition when we heard that Chauncey Park might be opening up once again, and it would be available perhaps for redevelopment. I actually had this idea when I was sitting here one night, and Diane McKenna made a petition to the board to establish a dog park. And I said to myself, I know what place might be available. So I would like to suggest that we put a little petition out there, and I'll read it to you. It says, Dear Mayor Hartley Cannett and members of the Board of Trustees, with the construction at Rivertown Square virtually complete, we request that a portion of Chauncey Park be designated and dedicated as a dog park in memory of our dear friend, Dobbs Ferry resident Paul Golio. Paul, a beloved and longtime resident of Dobbs Ferry, was hit by a car on March 3rd as he crossed Ashford Avenue on his way to the job at Dobbs Ferry Animal Hospital and died on March 10th. Paul was a joyful, larger-than-life and colorful character who never met a person or a dog he didn't like. Every night he would be seen walking his precious pups down Cedar and Main and engaging people with their other dogs in conversation and laughs. This park we'd like to have it be open to the public, and we thank you for your consideration. And currently right now, this petition has just been on the internet. We haven't bothered to try and create a petition to go, around the community. We just wanted surprised to get 1,460 odd signatures from people that were in Dobbsbury and actually all over the place. So the petition I have for you has names and also has the addresses. I have a map of the area just from like a scenic viewpoint down. But, and also a couple articles, but I'm not gonna read them, although it would have made a great PowerPoint presentation with some cute puppies and, you know, dogs doing tricks, but we'll spare you that. A couple of these articles, and what I'll do is I'll send these scanned images to Liz and she can give it to each one of the trustees. One of the articles is the benefit of dogs parks to a community. According to recent studies, over a third of U.S. households have one or more dogs. Armed with this fact, community parks and recreation departments are becoming more likely to include dog parks than facilities such as splash and play or golf courses. When making plans for your park, it's important to weigh the benefits of a community dog park and the positive effects it will have on your community and neighborhood as a whole. And then this thing goes into, you know, talking about dog parks can act as a gathering spot and people make friends and, you know, just like people when they meet people when their kids are in PTSA, like some of us older folks like me with the puppy, we meet the neighbors that way. So it's a great thing. So I just want to give this to you. And what we're hoping is that that you will send this and recommend that a task force be set up with the Recreation Committee, and that perhaps we can look at Chauncey Park as an opportunity to build a park there. One of the things that was really amazing in doing this short study is there are a lot of resources out there for trying,
Careful.
There are a lot of resources out there to try and help guide people into building dog-friendly parks. Paul Feiner actually told me he would help us and give us some resources because he's built a couple. And people are excited about a dog park, so we'd like to do something kind of fun and you know, good for the whole community. So I'm hoping that you will, you know, give this to the Recreation Committee and allow us to name it after Paul. And as a fundraiser, I did notice that $1.2 million in the last budget presentation was for parks. But I think that a dog park is something that is a wonderful thing that the community would be involved in helping to fundraise for. It would be great if the municipality took like a leadership role and said, we'll do a challenge match. There's a lot of really great ways that we can make this thing become a reality. And it would be a great thing for Paula's family and for all of us that used to see Paul around here and loved him so much. Thank you.
Vicki, that was really, really nicely presented. Thank you.
Oh,
That's really, was
I
really
do
nice.
just want to mention one thing. At first, when I was looking at all of those, 1,400 names of people from Italy and people from Florida, I'm like, why are we getting all of these people? And then I pulled this, I'm giving you a copy of everything I pulled off the website. But surprisingly, a lot of these things like Debbie Epstein, you may know her, she's in Louisville, Texas now. Growing up in Dobbs Ferry and living there for over 40 years, we grew to love my friend Paul. And if you knew him, you would know that his babies were his life. Nothing would be more fitting than a dog park. And this one woman, even from Italy, said, whenever I come to Dobbs Ferry, I always saw him with the dog. So it's just a wonder, I mean, the comments alone from people across the world that knew Paul are just really amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Vicki. I did see, I think somebody sent me something that Robin had sent out, the little puppies all coming here. I thought we might have dogs actually coming here tonight. And wondering how that was gonna work, but, so, but that was really cute, and really nice and well presented too. Yes, we'll present that, we'll take a look at it. I think it is most appropriate for the Recreation Commission to be, I'd really like to help you get started with this. I think it's a wonderful idea. There are some challenges with Chauncey Park that we'll learn about going forward in terms of whether the village doesn't actually own that yet. It's
part of it.
Or part of it, and there's gonna need to be some So that would be one thing that need to be looked at, but you've already mentioned it. I mean, the funding for it, yes, there is a recreation fund, and it could certainly be very appropriate that the Recreation Commission would say, you know, that's a good investment, along with private funding, like you mentioned, Vicki. So
Yeah, no, I
we'll help you get started. If you have anybody or a group of you might like to be part of a task force and volunteer your time to do this, that would really show commitment on your part and would go a long way to helping make it a reality. So we'll help you get started, and thank you for make that presenting recommendation. It's a really great idea.
Wonderful, we'll look forward to an invitation to the next Recreation Committee meeting. We'll bring most of the group here, and anybody else in the community that's interested in being part of the committee and the task force. We definitely want this to be more of a community thing, and we're really looking forward to doing something nice.
Vicki, we obviously haven't seen the materials you've pulled
Oh,
together,
sure.
but one of the things that would be very helpful if you're working on it and starting is to think through some of the background issues on, you know, how things like fencing would work, how other communities have addressed, you know, the logistics of it, parking, insurance, other things that might need to be done.
Maintenance.
And there may very well be some good roadmaps out there that you either have found or could find.
I have included in this packet of information, it's called the Dog Park Guide, Steps for
Perfect.
Creating a Dog Park.
Great.
How to start with a public meeting, educate your fellow dog owners who needs to be responsible. We've got a good start, and we look forward to making a more formal presentation to the rec committee, and hopefully coming back to you with something really positive and good.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's great.
I have one question. I'm a dog owner and I'm all in favor of this. I understand Mr. Finer said he would enjoy helping you out and everything like that. Does that mean we're gonna open up to the town of Greenberg?
I don't know that we have to open up to the town of Greenberg, but it's just because, I'm not sure, is Joe DeCasio still on the,
Yes, he is. Yep. That should be a question for him.
No,
But I would imagine.
Joe is actually with the town of Greenberg. He does the public Department of Parks and Recreation, and he's on our recreation committee. So that's the kind of resources that we're talking about. I don't think people, I mean, I take my dog to Greenberg, but nobody knows, nobody says anything. But these are all logistical things, and the committee can talk with the rec commission and come along with that, things.
Yep. Thanks, Vicki.
Okay, thank you. I'll give this to
Thank you.
Liz.
Anybody else care to address the board? Long wait.
Long wait.
Hope you didn't have anything planned. We're all going out afterwards. You can join us. With conclusions and successful takeaways?
I'm before you, this is a last minute ad from yesterday, just to give you an update on where we are with the Central Park Conservancy Institute for Urban Parks.
What's his
Brad
name?
Scott, and it's a new one in Beachdale, and I also represent the CAB, the Conservation Advisory Board. Just as a reminder of where we were very fortunate to be able to engage the CPC in doing an assessment of Waterfront Park. In our typical style, we also lumped in High Street and Memorial Park, to their surprise. But that all went fine. I think what's most important though was their initial recommendations came back to us, which was really about how we leverage all of the resources and enthusiasm that we have inside of our community to basically get forward momentum on the maintenance of our open spaces. So what does that mean, like very practically? That means how do we use volunteers and how do we use staff in an effective way that actually works together and is additive and productive of both. So with that said, I was very fortunate to be able to meet with the CAB and Charlene and DPW and Parks and Recreation staff on Tuesday, in which we determined and decided that the city or the village would move forward with developing a plan to be able to leverage the volunteers in the maintenance and some of the concerns of our open space. So what we've resolved to do in December is to actually start our first phase, which is to catalog what is necessary, what is necessary to maintain the open spaces in our parks, then prioritize what will be led by the village and where our volunteers can place their efforts, and then eventually move into assigning who and what it'll look like to be able to both leverage our volunteers and our permanent staff. So, it has been a while, and we wanted to make sure you understood and knew where we went.
That's great, Brent. That sounds fantastic. Real community effort, public and private working together. That's really great. I know you and I have talked about it on the train. I can always feel and I get your passion about this. So it's really been great to have you join the CAB and bring some new blood and some new energy, and I think it's really showing. I did bump into Neil in the diner the other night too, and he was pretty excited. I mean, the High Street, I know people got a little shooken up about the High Street thing the other night, but you know, that's a really great potential. Well, it's a great initiative. It's a great potential project, I think. And as you mentioned, you tie in Memorial and everything else. I mean, these are open spaces that really, with more work, can become beautiful, living, breathing places that we can really be proud of and can be much better than they are. So it's great that we have some people like you that are really helping, thinking about that, to help the village.
And we'll have our next update as soon as we have progress.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Brett.
much. Anybody else care to address the board? Okay, thank you. Thank you for everybody's comments. We're gonna move ahead now to matters requiring action. Number one is to consider motion to approve audits number 1 and 2 for November 2017 as recommended by the village treasurer. Jeff, you're okay with that?
Okay with it.
Okay, then I'll take a motion to approve the audits 1 and 2 for November as recommended by the treasurer. Is there a motion? Trustee Rosillo, second. Trustee Taylor. Discussion, all in favor? That passes with 6 ayes. And action item number 2 is to consider motion to accept Mr. Craig Dunn as a member of the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Department, Resolute Hook and Ladder Company, and to add his name to the active insurance rolls as recommended by Mr. Edward Kinnett, Secretary, Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Department. Is there a motion to accept Mr. Dunn? Trustee Golio, second. Trustee Cassell, all in favor? And that passes with 6 ayes. Next item is to look at the minutes for October 24, 2017, the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Don't know, were we all here for that?
I wasn't here.
Nicole was out. Nicole was out. Yes, just Nicole. So 1, 2, 3. We still have enough here tonight, and everybody else was present. So if there's no modifications or typos or things that need to be changed, I will take a motion to accept the minutes for the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for October 24, 2017 as presented. Is there a motion? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Cassell, discussion, all in favor? And those minutes are adopted. Okay, that brings us to the end. Well, one correspondence. I just wanted to, for the record, I received a letter here from Mr. Bill Feingold, who lives on Constance Avenue in the Fair Mead section, concerned about some parking issues and some traffic issues there. I just want to confirm receipt of Mr. Feingold's letter. And Bill, I will forward this to.
I've already taken care of it.
Oh, you have?
Wow. It's going to be on the Traffic Committee's agenda at the next meeting.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Bill. That's action. Okay, good, great. That was not rehearsed, by the way. Shows you, okay. All right, that's really it. Any announcements or?
No, Brad did mine.
Nicole, good? Larry, you're good? Good?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, I think only thing was we were gonna announce tonight that the tree lighting has been set for December 2nd.
Yep.
So that's, what time do we do that? Do you know, Liz, do you know what time we're doing that?
Usually 5 o'clock.
Around 5 o'clock, I always remember.
Okay. So 5 o'clock, December 2nd will be the traditional tree lighting ceremony. That's always a fun thing. I know the guys are already busy putting the lights up downtown. There is a suggestion that there is a small business shopping event on November 26th, which has been brought to everyone's attention. There will be some things, promoting some things. I know the chamber will be involved, the business community trying to promote basically shopping local. And that'll include, I think, some, maybe a new pop-up down at 75 Main, but If we can get the new lights up or lights up on
No
that,
pop-up down there.
we're gonna try to do that, right?
We'll try.
Even though we're still gonna sort of officially turn them on December 2nd, but maybe to get those lights up earlier, at least just for that evening, for that occasion. Otherwise, I think everything's good. Thank everybody for your comments tonight. Got a lot done, a lot of information shared, and there being no further business, meeting is adjourned.